Alright, so let's talk about weight and just generally moving around a lot of materials. A lot of people seem to struggle with this idea, and I found a lot of my friends generally confused. One of the easiest ways to increase your weight, and generally simplest, is just saving your loyalty and buying the weight increases. You can buy these 3 times per one character and increases it by 50 pounds. It takes about 35 days, but there's also completions for like time trials that you can get throughout the thing to help increase and speed it up. Now, granted, this probably isn't the fastest way to increase your weight, but it's just a passive way of doing it. Now, another way I want to talk about it is buying a wagon. Now, buying a wagon can be pretty simple because you can buy one off of the marketplace, but there's also one pretty simply available from the stable master that you can buy to help you transport goods. Now, when you do this, you just want to pay attention to the wagon weight, load it up with as much as you can, and go ahead and move the wagon around. This will help you move things from location to location, but granted, the wagon is pretty slow, so just be wary of that and just keep that in mind when you're moving things. Now, a pretty obvious way to increase weight is to just buy it. You know, $13.50, $10, and $60. You can buy each of these once, and it'll help drastically increase your weight if you're willing to just go ahead and spend some money on it. Now, one of the easiest and weirdest ways for me, that I say weird because not a lot of other games do it, is the transport system. Now, this is whenever you can select to move one of your characters to a different city, and just go ahead and change to a different character while you're at it. Now, the reason I say this is that you can keep them in different cities, switch to that character, load it up with as much as you can, and just hit transport. This will allow you to transport goods between cities without doing much effort. Now, speaking on the transport system, you can also do this by just going here and clicking transport and then sending to a different city. Now, why I bring this up is that you can load up and put things in different banks if it's weighing you down, and then just transport it to your main city. Say you are out grinding for a long period of time and you just vendor some things, and it makes a lot of silver, and you just don't want to carry that silver back to your town. You can exchange it at your warehouse for a gold bar, put it in your bank, and then transfer it that way, and send it, and then just go back to it and exchange it at the bank. Now, there are 2 different ways to AFK level your weight. There's the typical just making a loop and auto looping it, and just go ahead and doing it, which is pretty good in its own way, but there's also a slightly better way, and I'll include a link to the video in the description, but it's to buy a house and have a pack and AFK level in it. The reason why this one's slightly better is when you're doing the AFK loop, it's not taking into account your sprinting, so you're losing that boost of sprint towards your distance traveled. And when you AFK level in the house, you just set a couple numlock keys, including your sprint key. Now, there are 2 different ways to AFK level your weight. There's the typical just making a loop and auto looping it, and just go ahead and doing it, which is pretty good in its own way, but there's also a slightly better way, and I'll include a link to the video in the description, but it's to buy a house and have a pack and AFK level in it. The reason why this one's slightly better is when you're doing the AFK loop, it's not taking into account your sprinting, so you're losing that boost of sprint towards your distance traveled. And when you AFK level in the house, you just set a couple numlock keys, including your sprint key, and then unclick numlock, and it'll sprint and move in a corner, and you're still traveling a great distance. Now, the reason why I've told you all this is because I've seen a lot of my friends who personally don't know how to manage their inventory or move weight around, and just seem to get overburdened and just get frustrated with it. Hopefully with these several different ways, you can find your own system of moving weight between each characters, or, you know, using your warehouses in multiple different ways. It's going to take a little bit of work to figure out your own method, but eventually you'll be able to manage your inventory and your weight pretty accessibly. Yet again, I hope you liked the video. Thanks, and subscribe.